I was doing the Drumlanrig Sportive in May, organised by Mossy from Drumlanrig Castle. The route was about an 80-mile ride. The first loop involved going up the Mennock Pass to Wanlock Head. From Wanlock Head you then headed down to Lead Hills.
There's a few people told me about 3 years ago it takes 3 years in cycling to get half decent times in time trialling. I was sitting about 30 minutes at that time. I was happy to be breaking 30 minutes, so the people that said things like that were quite right.
Vast stretch of road from Wanlock Head down into Lead Hills village. The wind behind, nice smooth road surface in the big chain ring, small cog, and absolutely flying. Came to this right hand bend and tried to turn into the bend. Realised the bike wasn't going to go around the corner.
I think the reason that I got good times this year is, one, you've got to thank Ashley for letting me out every Saturday morning. People like Terry turns up every Wednesday night, arranges the races, but he's always there on a Monday night. I think there's everyone in the club's quite happy to give you advice. Some people will give you conflicting advice, so you maybe got to pick and choose who you take your advice from. People like Terry, Ian Hartness and the like. That's nothing against some of the other guys, but each person's got to decide who they're going to take. Maybe not their mentor, but the person to take the advice from.
As you know, for a couple of years I couldn't actually walk without any pain in my back. I could cycle, I could run, but walking straight was horrendous. So eventually I got diagnosed with the surgeon after an MRI scan that the tailbones of my back had all slipped and were all kind of offset. But what he did initially was that rather than the major surgery, he saw this cyst and a bone that had grown that appeared to be pushing a nerve.
As soon as the front wheel hit the grass, it must have just stopped dead. I went flying over the handlebars, landed on my head, shoulders, then my back. So I finished in an upright position, looked around for my bike, it was nowhere to be seen.
Unfortunately, it didn't go well. I went in March, beginning of March, after a trip to Spain, which helped in my recovery of that one. Had 500 miles in my legs, came back on the Wednesday, operated on the Friday.
The one where I knew I had done a good time was the first time I broke 26 minutes was at Cullen.
Didn't feel too bad, but eventually managed to stand up and walk down into the village.
The fact that I got down to 25:01 was a bonus and probably gives me something to aim for next year to hopefully break the 25.
Came back within a week. I was on the turbo, and within 2 weeks I was back on the bike, going great with no after effects of the surgery, apart from once again I still couldn't walk.
Basically the back wheel was very badly buckled. Realised that the frame had sort of cracked on the top tube here. I think what had happened was that the handlebars had snapped round really quickly.
He took me back in again to do what he called major surgery. He then put two 2-inch titanium rods to straighten up all my vertebrae on my tailbones, and 8 screws to keep everything in place. He also had to graft some new bone in as well to give me some kind of shape. That went pretty well. I can vaguely remember him telling me something about 3 months recovery, which I didn't really want to take in at all. I'm thinking to myself, I'm a finely tuned athlete, I'll be about 3 weeks.
My training's not really been any different to other years. The main thing that I think has changed this year for the first time, or last year, I trained throughout the winter and went to club rides in the winter, which probably gives you a better base to start your training off come the spring.
However, as you well know, 5.5 weeks after the operation I still couldn't walk. And it was fully 8 weeks before I could get on the bike. And once I started cycling, I had a lot of side effects of that as well. Start to climb a hill on the bike, I felt these screws and rods digging into my back as well, into my muscles.
In the last race, I think I'm probably right in saying that Alistair's was 8 points in front of myself. I'm not sure, I think I was maybe 3 or 4 points in front of the lad that was in third place. I believe I must have took about 9 or 10 points in that race. I think Alistair had been away his holidays the week before, maybe took it stolen him, and I managed to get a personal best, probably the only personal best or one of the few that night.
I was sitting, one amusing thing, I was sitting on her sofa and felt this kind of wet, trickly feeling at the back of my shorts, and I reached round and felt this kind of damp patch. I had this horrible feeling that it was blood and I was bleeding badly all over her couch, but realised a few seconds later that there was a kind of banana smell, and actually I'd had a banana in my back pocket which had completely liquefied, and that was what was causing all the dampness, which by then was all over her cushions on her suite, but luckily she didn't mind too much.
Probably because I've been too impatient. I mean, I'm busy telling everybody when they come back or when they start cycling or come back for an injury, it'll just take time. But you never listen to your own advice. And I was wanting to be kind of fit within 5 or 6 weeks. As I say, 4 months down the line, and I'm just now being able to start to climb a bit in the bike. So it's just a case of now base miles and look forward to some kind of serious turbo training in the turn of the year again and get back to normal, whatever that is.